think you've all kind of done my presentation through all the different components that have been talked about already. So this is probably just going to be a reaffirmation. So Samantha Maldonado, I also work at Pinpoint Solutions, which is a consulting firm that my husband and I have. He does full service advertising marketing. I do organizational development, change management, D&I consulting, so on and so forth. So this kind of dovetails into all of that. So before we get started, how many people are familiar with the imposter complex term? Have you heard it? We call it a syndrome before, right? Or what about a phenomenon? That's actually where it started. And then it just kind of tug-tailed into something else. So what is it? So it really is the belief that you're an inadequate, incompetent failure, despite evidence that indicates you're skilled and quite successful. Have we ever felt this way? I know I have, regularly. And it's really kind of that self-reflection, that voice in your head saying, are you really worth it? Do you deserve a seat at the table? When you can have all these accolades and all these like thank you cards sitting in a file that's like foot deep and you're still questioning your validity, right? And it's that self-talk that can really bring you down, that you need to start saying, hey, check, let's change the tune, let's change the narrative, because that's not accurate. And that can actually hold you back. So there's some identified types, if you will, not to put it in a black and white box, but hey, we need some labels sometimes. There's perfectionist, super person or superwoman, natural genius, soloist, and expert. So in regards to perfectionist, how do you think you would define as, in the imposter syndrome or complex framework, what a perfectionist person would identify as? Any thoughts? You're driven by perfection, right? Everything has to be perfect. You stay late. You're driven by overwork. You're the one that doesn't delegate. You have to own every single component of that project because it has to be done to a certain degree. Super person, you are driven by the work and not a personal accreditation. It's external validation and not internal validation, right? So you're always looking to do more and more and more and more. Natural genius, it has to come easy or it's not right. Or I'm not living up to my own level of standard and excellence if it doesn't just come easy, right? But when you learn something new, is it always above board? You're learning something new, you're building new synapses in your brain. It's not gonna come easy all the time. Soloist, you have to do it by yourself. You're always trying to do more just by yourself. And again, you don't know how to delegate. You have to own every single component of it. And letting go of that is super difficult because you have to know everything that's going on. And then expert, right? You kind of shudder by being the term SME because you're always trying to learn more versus just on-demand learning. So there's always situations where you find yourself, I know I do, as you're learning new things, taking on new leadership roles, taking on new positions, right? You're like, how do I know this? How am I gonna pick it up so quickly where I feel like I'm valid and I'm contributing to the work? Well, you need to give yourself some space and grace, like you're learning a totally new job, a totally new culture, making new relationships. These people have lifetimes of experiences that you're not kind of walking into. And is it gonna happen in a day? No. So you have to give yourself some space and grace and have that continual internal dialogue that it's going to take some time. But what it's not, the imposter complex is not, it's not a syndrome, it's not a medical condition. It's not a clinical diagnosis of a mental health issue, right? So it really is a complex. It's something that you have to have a daily choice and deliver for yourself from. So then, so what, right? What do I do about it now that I have a title or a definition around it, now that I know a little bit more about it, and it's not an isolated incident? So recognize your imposter feelings when they emerge, right? Don't be like, it's just a Monday. I have the case of the Mondays. No, it's recognizing that you're having these feelings, having that dialogue with yourself, saying, why am I having these feelings? What's going on? Am I learning something new? Are they given a huge new task? I don't know where to start at. Rewrite your mental programs, right? So if you start, what is it? If you start doing something for 21 days, it now becomes a behavior. You don't know everything, nor should you know everything. And that's okay. You want to, if you have a team, lean on that team and being vulnerable and saying, hey, I don't have all the answers, nor should I, nor do I want to. Help me decide what we need to do next. What are some of your ideas, right? If they're on the front lines, that's their day-to-day job. They know where you can pitch and pivot and come up with new ways of how to improve on that process versus you delegating everything down. You're sharing the wealth. You're building that investment with that team, and then they feel too invested in the success of the overall group, right? Talk about your feelings and your support that you need. Don't do it alone. Again, it takes a village to raise a child, so how are you going to be successful in your job if you don't know how to delegate? And your success as a leader is based on the success of your team. Start a smile file. Has anyone heard of a smile file before? This is an awesome thing. So if you haven't done it now, start today. And so what it really is as you receive those thank you notes, as you volunteer, as you complete a project that was like, oh my God, and you get a note of thank you or success, put it away in a little smile file so that as you have one of those days where like, I don't know what I'm doing, you can go back and recognize when someone appreciated the work that you did, and you can validate your own question within that same space. Consider the context. Are you learning something new? Reframe failure as a learning opportunity. You learn more through failure than you do through success, right? And be kind to yourself. What are you grateful for? What fulfills you? What are those check-a-boxes that deliver you your brand on a daily basis, that you live in purpose? And then you can rewire your brain and you revisualize your success. So again, some last thoughts to keep you moving forward. It's a daily choice, right? It's not gonna be a one and done, like I'm culturally competent and everything's great, or I'm great at my job on day one and everything's gonna be golden going forward. It's a daily choice to keep pushing yourself, get rid of that internal narrative, and lean on people to help you move through that. Be aware, be self-aware, and be kind. You're the first person that should, right? And then here's one I thought was great, because I'm gonna imprint this in my brain every day. Ancient sages of India apparently refer to the experience of spiritual evolution, like you're moving through different phases, as a threshold as chala, which is the sensation of being a fraud, because you've moved through one phase and you're moving into a new one. So you're not gonna have all those answers going forward. And then there's also a TED Talk by Tanya Geisler that I think is really great for everyone to check out regarding how to move through that imposter complex and recognizing that within yourself. So a lot of depth in 5 minutes. Granted, we barely brushed the surface, but again, it's something that you need to think about. Know you're not isolated in it, and it really is a phenomenon around the world that's been around for decades, and it's just a matter of having that conversation and sharing that with others that can support you through that process. So thank you.